Welcome to today's explainer, everyone. Look, right now, we are witnessing a massive seismic shift currently underway in the Middle Eastern global oil market. And honestly, this isn't just distant geopolitical news happening on the other side of the planet. No, this is a direct, immediate threat, and if we play our cards right, a unique opportunity for retail investors like you and me. We're going to break down exactly what's happening both underground and out on the open seas, and more importantly, how it directly hits your portfolio. So let's just dive right into the million-dollar question that's literally keeping markets awake at night. Will crude oil cross that critical $100 per barrel mark? Global tensions are soaring right now, and Brent crude is actively flirting with this danger zone. And let's be real, if you have money invested in the stock market, you're probably already feeling that anxiety of rising costs. Because when global energy logistics get choked up, your portfolio absolutely feels the immediate squeeze. To make sense of all this chaos, we'll take a quick macro to micro journey today. We'll cover 1. The global oil choke point. 2. Saudi Arabia's pipeline strategy. 3. The Red Sea trap. 4. The shipping nightmare. 5. Future crude scenarios. And finally, 6. Protecting your stock portfolio. Let's get into it. Starting with part 1, the global oil choke point. Okay, so the macro situation is incredibly tense, with Brent crude dancing dangerously close to that $95 to $100 per barrel threshold. And the main culprit here? Physical choke points that are severely threatening import-heavy economies. Just take a look at this massive number, 85%. That right there is the percentage of crude oil that an economy like India imports, 85%. So you can imagine, when global choke points get squeezed, it doesn't just rattle foreign markets. It acts like a massive alarm bell for domestic economies. The impact of a bottleneck thousands of miles away literally hits the domestic economy right in the jaw. And man, you can see this anxiety playing out in real time. Just look at this quote from a Reddit investor. "Every time oil prices jump, my paint and chemical stocks look like they are heading into a funeral." I mean, wow, that perfectly captures the very real panic retail investors are feeling right now. If you're feeling financial anxiety about this whole geopolitical chess match, trust me, your feelings are entirely valid, and the broader community sentiment is heavily reflecting that exact same fear. And this sequence brilliantly illustrates exactly why that panic exists. It's basically a macroeconomic domino effect. Think about it. When crude goes up, the national fiscal deficit rises, simply because the country is suddenly paying way more for essential energy. That, in turn, causes the local currency, like the rupee for instance, to depreciate. And what happens next? Yep, inflation spikes. This exact sequence is why $95 to $100 oil is an absolute nightmare for any economy that relies heavily on importing its energy. Moving on to part 2, Saudi's secret pipeline strategy. So, with the famous Strait of Hormuz facing severe military standoffs and a bunch of commercial shipping disruptions, Saudi Arabia actually deployed a master plan to bypass the danger zone altogether. Their trump card, it's the East-West crude oil pipeline, widely known in the industry as Petroline. This thing was originally built way back in the 1980s during the Iran-Iraq War, and honestly, it mostly just sat there as a dormant backup asset for decades. But with all these recent escalations, the state-owned company Aramco activated this massive piece of infrastructure into full emergency mode, shifting oil flow westward right across the country directly to the Red Sea. To truly understand the sheer scale of this, check out this observation from a structural engineer on Reddit. They said, "People do not realize that this pipeline is by far the largest oil pipeline in the world in terms of distance and amount of crude moved. This isn't just some minor detour we're talking about. It is a staggering engineering feat, and Saudi Arabia is desperately relying on it to act as the most critical structural bypass in the world right now." Just look at the numbers. Pre-crisis, Petroline was moving a relatively modest 1.5 to 2 million barrels per day. Today, that volume has surged to an astounding 7 million barrels per day. Basically, Saudi Arabia aggressively shifted roughly 75% of its crude exports away from the east and routed it directly to the Red Sea via the Yanbu port. For a quick minute there, the markets actually thought Saudi Arabia had pulled off the ultimate cheat code. But that brings us to part 3, the Red Sea trap. Because, well, geopolitics is never that simple, right? This viral post on X summarizes the painful irony of the situation perfectly. Saudi bypassed Hormuz only to find out they have to hand-deliver their oil post the Houthi drone spots. The oil successfully made it to the western coast via the pipeline, sure,
But to actually reach massive Asian markets like India, China, and Japan, those supertankers still have to sail south directly through the Red Sea. The mathematical reality of this shift is honestly kind of terrifying. Flow through the Strait of Hormuz completely plummeted from 21 million barrels a day down to under 8 million. That's a 60% drop. Meanwhile, the Saudi Petroline, the Yanbu port exports, and the Bab al-Mandeb Strait flows are all surging massively. The geographical flow of global energy has violently, and I mean violently, shifted in just a matter of months. So, in avoiding the Strait of Hormuz in the east, Saudi Arabia essentially just traded one bottleneck for another. They are now forced to navigate the Bab al-Mandeb Strait down in the south, and sitting right next to that southern strait are the Houthi rebels. They've declared a naval blockade, aggressively threatening any passing oil tankers with drones and anti-ship missiles. So, yeah, they basically just shifted the immense risk from one choke point to another. Which leads us to part 4, the shipping nightmare. The physical limitations of the Middle East have now spilled over, creating a massive, cascading logistical fallout for the entire global shipping industry. We're no longer just talking about an oil supply issue, it's a full-blown global transport crisis. As one geopolitical analyst on Reddit so succinctly put it, this is a two-choke-point nightmare, where you avoid Iran in the east, you get hit by the proxies in the south. Supertankers loaded up with millions of barrels of crude, desperately trying to supply the massive energy markets of Asia, are caught exactly in the middle of this high-stakes standoff, with literally nowhere safe to sail. Because of this blockade, many of these massive ships are being forced to pull massive U-turns and take the Cape of Good Hope detour, sailing entirely around the continent of Africa. And just look at the operational impact here. It adds 10 to 14 days of extra shipping time. It completely doubles, yes, doubles, the fuel and freight costs. And because every single trip takes so much longer now, it's creating a severe shortage of empty tankers in the broader market. It's a huge logistical mess. All right, let's look ahead to part 5, future scenarios for crude. As investors, we really need to forecast what happens next based on the data. By structuring all this geopolitical chaos, we can basically see 3 distinct paths forward. First up is the status quo. This is where temporary diplomatic channels keep prices elevated but generally stable, somewhere between $85 and $95. Second is escalation. Now, if tankers actually sink, insurance premiums are going to skyrocket, potentially pushing crude past $120 and triggering massive panic selling in global markets. And third, regional rewiring. This is where countries realize ocean choke points are just way too risky, leading to a massive 2 to 3 year pipeline building boom that permanently alters the global energy infrastructure. Finally, we get to part 6, protecting your stock portfolio. Fulfilling the promise I made to you at the start of this explainer. How do you actually hedge your investments against this global disruption? Well, based on macroeconomic realities, let's first look at the sectors you generally want to avoid. Paints and adhesives. They rely heavily on crude derivatives as raw materials, meaning expensive oil directly and painfully squeezes their operating margins. Oil marketing companies also suffer because they often face government-frozen retail prices despite their rising crude costs. In airlines and logistics, aviation fuel makes up over 40% of their running costs, so expensive oil equals much lower profitability for them. But on the flip side, calm investors look at sectors to favor. Upstream oil exploration companies, the ones actually out there pulling oil out of the ground, they see their revenues and profits rise alongside crude prices, acting as a great natural portfolio hedge. Additionally, every major oil crisis dramatically accelerates the green transition, making renewable energy ecosystems and electric vehicle infrastructure highly attractive for a structural bull run. The financial markets will always adapt to supply corridors, but you have to make sure you aren't trapped holding the wrong stocks when the music stops. So I want to leave you with this final thought based on everything we've looked at today. Will this geopolitical chess match force crude all the way up to $120? Or do you think these massive pipeline bypass plans will ultimately work out? Let me know your predictions, stay vigilant out there, and keep learning.